Good day, distinguished colleagues, policymakers, educators, and advocates for our younger citizens. It is truly an honor to stand before you today at this regional conference on meeting the developmental needs of our young children. Our gathering today is not just a professional exchange, it is a collective commitment to shaping the future of the Caribbean through equitable, high-quality early childhood education. As we all recognize, every child from birth through 8 years deserves the opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive in an environment that supports their physical, emotional, social, and cognitive development. This vision aligns closely with the principles of the National Association for the Education of Young Children, whose framework have long guided global efforts towards developmentally appropriate and inclusive early learning practices. Across the Caribbean, many nations have taken commendable steps towards this goal. Policies and standards have been developed, inspired by the National Association for the Education of the Young Children's vision of excellence in early childhood education. Yet, as we celebrate these achievements, we must also acknowledge that alignment with international best practices remain uneven. Some islands have made notable progress, while others continue to face challenges related to resources, training, and policy implementation. Our address today will explore 4 key areas. 1. An overview of the NAEYC guidelines and their core principles. 2. An analysis of the Caribbean's current early childhood education landscape. 3. Identification of the existing gaps between our regional practices and global standards. And lastly, evidence-based recommendations to bridge those gaps and strengthen our collective impact. Together, let us reaffirm our shared responsibility to ensure that every child Together, let us reaffirm our shared responsibility to ensure that every Caribbean child, regardless of background or birthplace, is given the foundation for lifelong success. Thank you, and I will now pass you over to my first advocate, who will be giving you an overview of the NAEYC guidelines and their core principles.
Good day, everyone. My name is Natasha Batiste Johnson, and I am an advocate for young children. Today, I'll be sharing an overview of the NAEYC guidelines, a set of principles that define and support high quality and equitable early childhood education. At the heart of these guidelines is the Developmentally Appropriate Practice DAP position statement. This statement explains how teachers can intentionally promote young children's learning and development through practices that are knowledge-based, culturally sensitive, and relationship-driven. According to NAEYC 2020, there are 3 fundamental factors that guide all decisions about teaching and learning in early childhood settings. 1. Knowledge of child development and learning, that is understanding the general patterns of how children grow across physical, social, emotional, and cognitive domains. 2. Knowledge of each child, individual child I should say, recognizing their unique interests, abilities, and learning styles. And 3. Knowledge of the social and cultural context, appreciating each child's family, community, and language as essential parts of their learning experience. Building on these, NAEYC identifies 5 key guidelines for effective early childhood practice. And these guidelines are: 1. To support the whole child, promoting social, emotional, cognitive, and physical growth. 2. Be culturally and contextually responsive, that is valuing family and community connections. 3. Use purposeful, evidence-based experiences that have clear learning goals. 4. Emphasize play as the central way children learn and make sense of their world. And 5. Consider each child's developmental stage and learning needs in planning and teaching. Together, these principles ensure that teaching is not only intentional and research based, but also warm, inclusive, and aligned with how young children learn best through hands on experiences, nurturing relationships, and active exploration. Beyond classroom practice, the NAEYC Early Childhood Program Standards provide a framework for ensuring overall program quality for children from birth to age 8. These standards highlight 10 interconnected areas that define program excellence, and they are: 1. Relationships, nurturing trusting relationships between children and adults. 2. Curriculum, developmentally appropriate and inclusive learning experiences. 3. Teaching, a balance between child initiated and teacher guided learning. 4. Assessment, ongoing, authentic assessment that informs instruction. 5. Health, ensuring children's safety, nutrition, and physical well being. 6. Staff competence and support, well prepared teachers who continue professional growth. 7. Families, strong, respectful partnerships with parents and caregivers. 8. Community relationships, collaborating with local resources and services. 9. Physical environment, safe, stimulating, and well organized learning spaces. And 10. Leadership and management, ethical, effective administration that supports continuous improvement. These 10 standards work hard, or they also work hand in hand to create an environment where every child can thrive. They provide a benchmark for excellence that early childhood programs in the Caribbean and around the world can use to assess their quality and ensure that all children receive the fair, nurturing, and high quality education they deserve. So at this time, I must say thank you for taking the time out to hear me out or to listen to me. But now I want to turn you over to some of my colleagues who will share with you an analysis of the Caribbean context. Good evening.
Thank you for having us, Savitri. I'm here with my colleague Shireen to discuss the analysis of the Caribbean context overview. Firstly, we have a regional ECCE, policies influenced by NAEYC and UNICEF frameworks. Secondly, we have Practicum and OECS promote unified ECE qualified frameworks. And thirdly, we have implications varies across island nations. The Caribbean region has adopted several early childhood education frameworks inspired by the NAEYC principles. Organizations such as CARICOM and the OECS have supported policies emphasizing child-centered, inclusive, and play-based approaches. However, policy implementation and quality assurance vary across different island states. I'll now turn over to my colleague to give you some examples.
Thank you, Renisha, my colleague. Now, let us look at the current early childhood education policies in specific Caribbean islands. In Jamaica, the Early Childhood Commission was established in 2003. In their policies, there are 12 national standards for early childhood institutions. Their policy is also in alignment with the NAEYC principles of quality and inclusion. Jamaica stands as a leader in aligning its early childhood policies with international standards. Through the Early Childhood Commission, established in 2003, Jamaica enforces 12 national standards covering quality, safety, and pedagogical effectiveness. This structure closely mirrors the NAEYC standards for program excellence. Now, let's take another look at another Caribbean island, which is Trinidad and Tobago. In their policy, The National ECCE curriculum framework promotes holistic development. Their policy also places strong emphasis on inclusive education and play-based learning. They also partnership for teacher training with regional and international agencies. Trinidad and Tobago's ECCE framework emphasizes inclusion, holistic development, and continuous professional development. Its national curriculum mirrors the DEP philosophy, promoting interactive play-based learning and fostering collaboration with stakeholders. Now, let's look at our last country, which is St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Their policy in the ECC unit, which is established under the Ministry of Education. There are also teacher training programs for caregivers and teachers. In their policy, they also integrate play-based and child-centered pedagogy. St. Vincent and the Grenadines ECCE unit ensures that programs adopt a child-centered approach. The government places emphasis on teacher training and developmental pedagogy, has improved quality and access. However, monitoring consistency remains a challenge. Now, let us look at some of the examples alignment with the NAEYC. First, teacher training programs emphasize child-centered learning. And in the Caribbean islands, we would have seen a lot of emphasis placed on those programs and a lot of child-centered learning taking place. Also, we see that play-based approaches increasingly used in classroom. That too, we can attest for. Family and community partnerships promote regionally. Across the Caribbean, alignment with NAEYC principles can be seen through teacher development, play-based approaches, and family engagement. Programs supported by UNICEF and regional agency illustrates how collaborative efforts enhance early childhood education and quality. Let me now turn you over back to my colleague Renisha as she talked to you more on assessment of regional compliance with standards.
Thank you, Shireen. Assessment of regional compliance. Firstly, we have policies exist but implementation is inconsistent. Secondly, we have monitoring systems vary among islands. And thirdly, limited data on program outcomes and accountability. Despite these advancements, compliance remains uneven. While policy frameworks exist, the lack of systematic monitoring, evaluation, and accountability mechanism hinders consistent implementation. Reliable data collection on program outcomes also remains limited. I'll now turn over to my next colleague, Keandra. Thank you.
Now that you have learned about the analysis of Caribbean content, it is important that I discuss the analysis of gaps in the Caribbean based on the NASIC standards. The first gap is insufficient teacher training. Throughout the Caribbean countries, there is a lack of trained early childhood practitioners, which does not align with NASIC Principle 6, staff competencies, preparation, and support. Examples of this from different Caribbean countries. Jamaica. A significant amount of early childhood practitioners are untrained. St. Kitts and Nevis also affected by a number of untrained teachers in the early childhood setting. Antigua and Barbuda is another country that has untrained teachers in the early childhood center. Lastly, Haiti. A large number of practitioners are untrained in this country. The second gap we will look at is inconsistent quality across early childhood programs. Many early childhood centers across the Caribbean does not offer a high quality program that supports holistic development. This does not align with Principle 2 that speaks about curriculum. An example of this is Jamaica, where many private early childhood centers does not follow the set country's framework. The third and final gap we'll discuss is resources. Across the Caribbean countries, many early childhood institutions lack proper resources, which does not align with NACIC Principle 9, which speaks about the importance of indoor and outdoor equipment and materials. Examples of this from different countries include Antigua and Barbuda. Due to insufficient funds, schools are significantly affected, especially in the area of resources and materials in this country. Haiti. Haiti is another country where early childhood centers are lacking necessary resources and materials. Overall, this analysis shows that many Caribbean countries have made commendable strides, but some have few areas that fall short of some of NACIC standards. I will now turn over to Elnet, who will share some recommendations.
Good morning, esteemed colleagues, educators, policymakers, and advocates for early childhood development. It is both an honor and a privilege to address you today at this important regional conference. We are united by a common goal to ensure that every child in the Caribbean receives the best possible start in life. In this context, our regional effort must align with internationally recognized standards such as those established by the National Association for the Education of Young Children. The NAEYC standards provide a framework for quality in early childhood programs with a focus on developmental appropriateness, family engagement, equity, professional competence, and ethical practice. Recommendation for element with NAEYC standard. To strengthen our element with NAEYC high quality standard, I propose 3 key recommendations. 1. Strengthen curriculum frameworks. 2. Enhance professional standards and training. 3. Foster strong family and community partnerships. Family engagement should remain central to our working by collaborating with families and communities. We can create consistent and supportive environments that honor cultural diversity and promote shared responsibility for children's learning and development. Evidence-based strategies for addressing identified gaps. Despite significant progress, research and regional assessments reveal ongoing gaps, including inconsistent quality across early childhood programs, insufficient teacher learning, and limited access to developing screening and support services in the Caribbean. Implementation strategies for regional improvements. To translate their recommendations into meaningful action, a structured collaborative approach is required. 1. Regional policy harmonization. 2. Capacity building and professional learning networks. 3. Monitoring, evaluation, and accountability system. I want to remind everyone that the measure of our region progress is not only found in economic growth or technological advancements, but in the well-being, happiness, and potential of our children. By aligning our regional standard with globally recognized frameworks like the NAEYC, while remaining true to our Caribbean identity, we reaffirm our common commitment to excellence, equity, and empowerment for every child. Let us continue to build partnerships, invest in quality, and ensure that every child in the Caribbean have the opportunity to grow, learn, and shine. Their development is not just our responsibility, it is our legacy. Thank you.
In closing, as we reflect on the progress made across our Caribbean region, it is clear that we have laid a strong foundation for early childhood development. Yet the journey toward full alignment with the National Association for the Education of Young Children standards, and more importantly, toward equitable learning opportunities for every child, is still ongoing. Let us continue to collaborate, to share our expertise, and to transform our passion into purposeful action. The future of our children depends on the quality of the experiences we create for them today. To all the advocates, educators, and policymakers present today, I extend my heartfelt gratitude for your unwavering commitment to our youngest learners. Together, we are not only shaping classrooms, but shaping the very fabric of our societies. Thank you for your undivided attention and do have a great day.